Hey, I want to talk to you about what a life coach is and what a grief guide is. Now, as a life coach, sometimes it's easier to explain to people what we're not because we are not mental health counselors. We are not psychologists or psychiatrists. We don't delve so much into looking at your past as we look at where you are today and where you want to be. So, what we'll do is what I will do with when I work with you is assess basically seven kind of areas of your life, seven basic areas that we all have in our life, and then we figure out how much imbalance those areas are for you and what things you might want to work on. Now, those include mental and emotional and spiritual health, include money, finances, career and education, physical health and recreation, social and family relationships, routine responsibilities, and lastly, giving back. How productive are you in terms of what kind of a legacy do you want to leave when you leave this earth? So, just to give you a couple of real quick examples, I've worked with clients. I could think of one. She's an engineer and she wanted to move from being an engineer into owning her own store where she could sell spiritual things. And how do we get there? If you're a full time person, you've always worked for somebody else. How do you move to work owning your own business? Do you quit your day job and buy a store? That's not a strategy that I would recommend. What I recommended to this person is she do kind of what I did when I started Treasure Locks is I started small. I started on the internet and I started working it as a side gig until I got built up to the point where I could do it full time. And then you might want to transition to owning a brick and mortar store before you take that leap. So we break things down into bite sized chunks that you can work on. And then I help hold you accountable to those as we make the plan. Give you an example of physical health and recreation. I had a client who's a single mother, and she spent most of her time taking care of her son and just going to work, and her health wasn't where she wanted it to be. She wasn't as active as she wanted to be. So we put together a plan for her to get more physical recreation. So the other thing that was really interesting about that is just by talking to me and having someone hold her accountable, it got her out doing more things, walking more often, going to the gym more often, and this woman actually started losing weight after a period of time. The same person had an issue with social and family relationships. Again, because she was so dedicated to her son and to working, she didn't have time to spend with adults. So we put together a plan on going out a few times a week and spending time with adults. So we can work on things like that. If you're having trouble meeting routine responsibilities, just certain things you're just putting off and not getting done. Sometimes having an accountability partner with that can help. Um, Giving back. Do you want to leave a legacy? What would that look like? It's really interesting. I work with a client right now, and I work with all different types of clients on different things. And this person decided that they want to leave a legacy for their grandchildren. So they actually wanted to write something, but had never gotten the motivation to do that, to talk about their lives and what had happened to them and stuff like that. So we're going through a process where every week she's meeting with me and she's basically telling me about her life. And we're going through it and we're kind of looking at how things have worked out. And we're putting together a plan to create a document that she can leave as a legacy. Might even turn into a book one day. Who knows? We don't know where it's going to go, but just the process itself has been healing to this person. So those are the types of things that a life coach can do with you. Again, if you're someplace in your life where you feel like you're stuck somewhere where you want to move forward, you want to have someone to work with you, to help you plan, to bounce ideas off of, to hold you accountable. That's what a life coach can do. I work with some life coaches myself, actually, that have helped me along the way. The second thing I want to talk to you about is what is a grief guide? Now, this is, I think, really interesting. I was talking to a guy. I first called myself a grief coach, and he asked me, "What do you do?" I told him what I was doing, and he said, "You're more of a grief guide." He said, "You're like a navigator. You sit on the passenger seat while while your client is doing the driving because it's their life, it's your life, but you can guide them, and you know where the road is. You can kind of read the map." Well, the thing is, my daughter Shayna transitioned. She passed away in June of 2015. Now, before that, I had an extreme fear of death. It's called thanatophobia. Because of that extreme fear of death, I studied death and the afterlife like crazy for probably 15 years before Shayna passed away. Since Shayna passed away, that's intensified. I've studied it even more. So I have a lot of understanding about what death is and what it really means. Having gone through the grief process, having worked with grief people, grief experts, having taught grief workshops, I've got a lot of experience in dealing with grief personally and also with those experiences that I just mentioned. I worked with the San Francisco Theological Seminary, teaching some courses there. So I've had those experiences. I've worked with ions, et cetera. Um, but I want to read something from one of my clients that might give you a better idea of what it looks like when I have a session with the client. So what this is, I just got this today actually. Says, I very much appreciated Saturday's session. I like having conversations that include Cecily, who's her partner, and touch on both the intensely emotional part of this process as well as the metaphysical and intellectual pieces that contribute to developing new understandings and perspectives on my child transitioning, but being very present. What we talk about is, again, we talk about emotions. We talk about intellectually, what do we know about the afterlife? Not just what do we believe, but what do we know? What does science tell us? What do mediums tell us? What do afterlife communications tell us? And we talk about new perspectives on our, in this case, this woman's child transitioning and still being present, because that's a very big part of when I work with people. It's not just that you will see your loved one again someday, but you can have a relationship with them now. Continuing on, she says, afterwards, I felt calmer and more hopeful. I like how I can make an appointment for a time that works for me, that I can talk about anything that I need to. And I don't have to script the conversation beforehand. Our conversations are, they're just conversations. They're free flowing. I've got clients that come in with a list of things they want to talk about, and I have clients that just make an appointment whenever they feel like it. And I like how you are steady and very human presence. Mostly, I benefit from anything you say that helps me to bring hope to my own future as I struggle to rebuild my life after the transition of my son, since you've walked a similar path. And I can say, especially for parents that have lost children, you feel like your life is over. You feel like, there's no way forward. And I felt that too personally. But what I do is I help people and I also model for people. This person, frankly, it's been 4 months since their son transitioned. For me, it's been 5.5 years. So I've been down the road that people are going on. She finishes with, most days, that's what I need to know that someone else has done it in a positive way. And that's something I hope I can provide to people is a kind of a roadmap for where you can go. If it's been, a few months or a few weeks or even a few years since your child's transition, or even if it's been longer than it has been for me, because we all go down this road at different ways, at different paces. You may be stuck even after 5 or 10 years, or I've seen people, in that situation. So that's what a life coach is. That's what a grief guide is. That's what I do. Hopefully, that gives you a good idea of what I might be able to do for you. As of the time I'm recording this, I'm still offering 30-minute free consultations. So you can book that on my website. You can decide whether you want to work with me or not. No obligation. It is not a sales pitch. I don't ever try to sell anybody on moving forward with me. If it's a fit for both of us, then we can decide what that looks like and we can go from there. So thanks a lot for your attention. Have a great day.